So I'm really big on documentaries. I love documentaries. And I've been rearranging my living room today, and I came upon a documentary on Auschwitz, one of the concentration camps, Nazi concentration camps. And I mean, I know all about the concentration camps. I actually went when I was young to Washington, and they had it was not a presentation, but it was like a memorial for all the people that had been murdered, all the Jews, men, women, and children, all the shoes piled up, all the glasses were piled up separately. Every piece of clothing was in a different pile, but there was thousands, thousands. So I'm sitting here watching this documentary on Netflix, and one of the one of the I think it was one of the SS, but one of the soldiers that was in charge of killing people was being interviewed. It was like a live interview, and um, the it was all in German, but it was translated. And the lady asked him about the killings, and he and what part he had in that, in the sense of like, were you in charge of the gas chambers? Were you in charge? And he proceeds. I mean, I'm looking at the man on the screen. He proceeds to say that he was that what they would do. One of the things they would do in the mass killings was they would dig a very deep, large, huge ditch, and then they would make like thousands. I'm not exaggerating. They would make thousands of men, women, and children walk down into this ditch. And above the ditch is where they is where he would stand along with all of his other soldiers, or and they would all stand at the top of this very deep, huge, large ditch with all these people standing in it. And he said that when they got the cue to start shooting, he said it wasn't just him, it was him and a bunch of other soldiers. They just would start randomly shooting everybody in the ditch. So the lady that was interviewing him, she said, what were your feelings? I mean, you could tell she was very upset about this, obviously. Um, However, she was there to do the interview, but you could tell she was struggling with trying to not get her emotions obviously involved. Um, so she said, "So what were you feeling and thinking while you were shooting all of these innocent Jews, these men, women, and children? What were you feeling and thinking as you were shooting these people?" And the man, a void, completely void, and he just said nothing. And it was like a pause. And she said, nothing. You weren't feeling or thinking anything as you're shooting these kids and these women and these men. And he said no, nothing. No, he didn't say no. He said again, nothing. And then there was a pause, and then he basically said he was just trying to stay focused on um aiming correctly. And then there was a pause. And then he said, to make sure, to make sure that everyone was getting shot properly. And she, you could tell the lady asking the questions was just like in awe, like, dude, like, what do you say? And so there was a long pause, and he's just looking at her, and she said, so you didn't think anything while you're sitting here killing thousands. He said there were thousands. There would be thousands that would come in. Once they were all shot, then there'd be thousands more that would come in. And this would go on for days, all day. And she said, so you didn't feel anything? And he said, no. And then he basically said, that the hate that he had for Jews diminished all remorse or feeling. And I'm just sitting here looking at this dude like, you gotta be one sick. And then I started to think about society today. You know what I mean? Like, with all the hate that's going on in the world right now, with all the race wars, with all the violence, and with all the killings, and then in the documentary, it was showing like it's live footage. It's not, it's live footage from Auschwitz. I mean, that's just one of the concentration camps. But this documentary specifically was on just Auschwitz. And they started to show live video recordings back in the 1940s of everybody, thousands of people, bones, just no meat on their bodies. I mean, y'all, I've known about this for many, 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 many years. I learned about it in school, but it's just, and then there was one footage that they showed of a bunch of like thousands of Jews that weren't able to work in the camps anymore because they had got they were too weak because they weren't getting fed. They were too weak. They or they had like a disability, and there was this long road, this long rock and dirt road, and they were forced to just, they knew what was going to happen. They knew they were about to be killed. And like in the concentration camps at that point, and also in the documentary were several survivors that survived. And they, but they were telling us that, but they're telling you about what all they experienced in these concentration camps. And they said, every day, day in and day out, you could be talking to one person, and then they're killed the next day. And you're just thinking in your mind, well, then I guess I'm next. Like you just kind of, you disassociate because that's all you can do. But as these people were walking down this rock and dirt road, knowing they were about to be killed, um, one of the survivors was saying, because she had observed everybody walk down this road to be killed, and she was one of the survivors, and she said it was like loved ones were walking down this road, and they were like saying bye to their loved ones because they knew. They knew they weren't gonna see him again, and there was kids that were taken from their mothers, killed, and they said that mothers would be forced to watch their children get shot and killed. It's just, this happened in the 40s. It's so long ago, but it's just like, damn, you know what I mean?